Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. I want to say good morning and hello to everybody, all the intelligent black people that want to come through and have a good conversation. I welcome you. Today, I want to talk about Bill Cosby, and there's a new documentary called We Need to Talk About Cosby that is appearing on Showtime. And the documentary is disturbing for a lot of reasons that racist mainstream media is probably not going to address. So, in our effort to build black owned media that speaks a voice for those who don't always have a voice, I thought I would take a moment as a scholar to give you a list of concerns that I have about the Cosby documentary. Now, before we get started, if you could help us get the message out, get this other point of view that they'll censor, that they'll suppress. If you can help us get this out by hitting the thumbs up button, share, subscribe, I would appreciate that very much. Also, if you'd like to support the channel, you can become a patron at intelligentblackpeople.com. You guys know my PhDs in finance, so I share stock market picks, and stocks that I like every week with the patrons. So feel free to go to intelligentblackpeople.com. So put your hashtag B1 in the chat. I see Kingdom Girl and Illustrious Visions and Pugilism and Politics. And my name is Corey and DDS and Rob Barker. How are you? How are you? How are you? Okay. So give me a yes or no. Give me a yes or no. How many of you have heard of this new documentary? We need to talk about Cosby. Give me a yes or no. Give me a yes or no if you've heard about the documentary. So I saw the trailer for the documentary, and it's interesting. I saw a few people in there that I know. I saw Mark Lamar Hill in the documentary. I think I saw Roland Martin. I saw another guy. I forgot his name. He's a big gay guy. I forgot his name, but anyway, they had a lot of black people in this documentary, and that actually leads to my first point about this. We need to talk about Cosby's basically, I guess, their effort to engage in what I consider to be a high tech lynching of Cosby. And the reason I call it a high tech lynching is because if you look at the history of lynchings weren't always done against people who were seen as totally innocent. Lynchings occurred against that black man where white people felt he was guilty, but they didn't feel like the courts had given enough justice for their appetite. Right, like a lot of times the men who got lynched were the men who were accused of a crime, and they said, we know that Negro did it, we just can't prove it, or we just can't get him arrested, or we can't get him put in jail, so we just gonna take the law into our own hands, and we are going to do like the people on January 6th. We're going to storm the Capitol. We're going to storm because we white, and we get to do what we want. We're going to storm the building, and we're going to go in here, and we're going to get justice by any means. Well, we're going to get it however we feel like we want to get it, right? And that to me is what I'm seeing with this Cosby documentary. Because with this documentary, what's really fascinating is it is released by Showtime, so you have a white-owned media outlet. Pay attention now. This I'm gonna break this down for you. In terms of what I'm seeing, you have a white-owned media outlet. They see the racial writing on the wall. They see how racist this is. The reason you know that they see the racism is because the whole damn cast in the trailer. If you go watch the trailer, the whole cast is damn near 100% black. The whole cast is 100% black. Mark Lamar Hill's first Negro they put up there, and I'm gonna tell you a couple of secrets about Mark Lamar Hill that you guys may not know. Remember, I helped Mark get his career started. Mark Lamar Hill called me in 2007 and asked me, "How do I get on TV just like you?" And me being a guy who wants to help everybody, I said, "Yeah, well, here's what you do. Here's how I can help you." I can't say I regret it, but I can say that when a person is given power, I've learned over time that it's an ethical thing as to whether or not they use their power for good or evil. So I know Mark extremely well, and I'm going to tell you exactly why Mark's opinion about Cosby is not an unbiased opinion. Remember, Mark is in Philadelphia, just like Cosby. Mark was at Temple, just like Cosby. So this goes way back. This goes back. This is a beef. This is basically white folks giving black people a platform. Certain black people, not all black people, certain black people a platform to settle personal scores. They've done this. They do this all the time. I've seen this pet trick played out in many occasions. So the cast is almost all black, and they did this because they wanted to neutralize the obvious racial argument that can be made in a situation like this. These are not independent black people. These are not black people with their own platforms. These are not black people with their own wealth. These are black people. The people that are on Cosby's a black man who had his own wealth, right? He did use NBC's platform and whatnot, but he did build his own wealth. He gave millions of dollars to HBCUs, something that not one Negro on that documentary would ever be able to do. He went out and he was able to single-handedly educate millions of black people, increase HBCU enrollment. He gave lots of money to big universities at a level that they can't really operate at. So most of the Negroes that are on that documentary could never even dream of doing the things for black people that Cosby did. They don't own anything. They don't have their own platforms, and they're not very powerful people. They just they just use white liberal platforms to pursue a white liberal message in blackface. That's what that is. It's white liberal messages in blackface. So if you listen to, for example, if you listen to, I forgot her name. She's on the sports lady with the braids. Y'all can help me. But she's on. She's often reciting white feminist talking points. I forgot her name though. Her name's out of my brain. Is it Jamil something? Jamil. I can't remember her name. But anyway, again, she had a white platform. White people gave her original platform. Jamil Hill. Thank you. They gave her a platform because she fits in with a white liberal ideology. And she uses that to bash black men on a regular basis. And typically, if you look into the backgrounds of women like that, and I'm not making fun of her, but typically women like that, unfortunately, have an unhealthy relationship with their father. And so I, as a father, I can identify that just very quickly. And I said, I wonder what her relationship is with her dad. I looked it up. First thing I read was something about her father being on drugs, and I don't support that at all in terms of black men who are, harming their children, ignoring their children, out here smoking dope instead of being with your kids. I can't support that because that's not what a real man does. But typically, in many cases, when you see an angry black woman in that particular space, meaning angry toward black men, like black men ain't nothing. Black men this, black men that, and they're doing the bidding of white folks. Typically, that means that that woman has an unhealthy relationship with her father. Give me a yes or no if you've ever seen that. And I'm not making fun of you if you're in that category. I just encourage you, if you're in that category, get some therapy so that you can understand that we're not all your father. Every black man ain't your daddy. I didn't abandon you when you were a child, right? So why are you taking it out on me? Right. So anyway, let's keep it going. So with this documentary called what is it? Something Cosby. We need to talk about Cosby. The host is Kamal Bell, a black comedian. And first thing he says in the trailer is, I'm a black man. Right. Again, that's all plotted. That's all prepared, right? It's a prepared statement. Like, let's neutralize the racial angle so that they don't see the obvious. They don't see us robbing the stagecoach in broad daylight by doing something that is clearly racial. Clearly, how are you going to neutralize the racial dimension of something that is as racial as the day is long? You can't do that, right? And so ultimately, first thing he says is, I'm a black man, and this is complicated. And then he says, but we need to talk about Cosby. So then you hear in the trailer a string of black people, mostly black people, many of whom, maybe some of whom have a beef with Cosby, some of whom are typically white liberals in blackface, kind of all saying the same thing. Basically, that Cosby's a bad guy, right? And here's the thing. I want to make it clear. I'm not here to sit here and convince you that Cosby's a good guy. I am not here to try to convince you that Cosby's a good guy. I'm not here to try to convince you that Cosby is completely innocent, because I don't know if he's innocent. I don't know that, and neither do you, and neither does the court of law. That's why he was proven not guilty in court. That's why he was proven not guilty. Not guilty does not mean innocent, though. That's what's important. And here's the thing, though. I want black people to not fall in that trap of thinking that you've got to prove that he's innocent in order for you to say that this is wrong. This is injustice. This is not guilty. In fact, let me ask y'all a question. Serious question. Give me a yes or no in the chat. Everybody answer this question for me. Have you ever, ever in your life seen a white owned media outlet like Showtime get a cast full of people, especially black people, to go on the air and vilify a prominent white man of Cosby's stature? Any white man named, and you got a lot of them to choose from. Have they ever done a documentary on Showtime about a prominent white man of Cosby stature who was never found guilty, but yet talked about him like he was guilty? Has that ever happened? Can you name one time? Seriously, pay attention now. This, I can stop talking right now with this. I like literally, I can stop with this very point right here. Can you name one time? Everybody answer me. Give me a guess. I'm looking for a yes. Look, I'm looking for a yes. I'm looking for a name. Give me one name. Just one. I just need one. You got a lot of white people to choose from. Lord knows white people, white men have been robbing us, killing us, raping us, stealing from us, harming us, enslaving us, pillaging us, doing all kinds of stuff to us for 400 years. Can you name one white man going all the way back to George Washington where you've seen a full documentary on Showtime or HBO or any of these white-owned networks where they went out of their way to say, we gonna get this dude. We gonna get his ass. We gonna get him. Pay attention, black people. They don't even do that to Christopher Columbus, and you know what the hell he did. They won't even do it to Christopher Columbus, right? so, so, now, see somebody mentioned Jeffrey Epstein, but last time I checked, Epstein was proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Jeffrey Epstein went to jail. He died in jail. He died in jail. Now, Donald Trump. There you go. That's a good answer. Donald Trump. Perhaps with Donald Trump, you might have a point there. Now, remember, here's the deal, though. With Donald Trump, the vilification of Trump, which, again, I'm not going to defend Trump. Lord knows I ain't going to sit there and try to defend that guy. But remember, Trump is a Republican. This is part of this is political. Almost every single black person that was in the documentary was a Democrat. They're basically white liberals in blackface. That's what they are. I think one of the guys' name is Jelani something. He's the big guy who's part of the LGBT community, and he's he's as liberal as they come, right? So here's the deal. This was a white liberal hit piece. This was a pure example. Malcolm X used to talk to y'all about this of white liberal racism. White liberal racism, basically, to some extent, among other things. First of all, they have a big issue with the masculine black male. They if you black and you gay, then they ain't gonna mess with you. Don Lemon done did all kinds of stuff. They ain't never mess with Don Lemon. But of course, Chris Cuomo's ass ain't got a job no more. Don Lemon got caught doing the same thing as Chris Cuomo. Pay attention now. Pay attention. Go if you don't know what I'm talking about, go Google it. Don Lemon got caught doing the same damn thing that Chris Cuomo did. Remember, Chris Cuomo tipped his brother off about the investigation, blah, blah, blah. Don Lemon did the same thing with Juicy Smollett. He did the same thing with Juicy Smollett. He's still on CNN last time I checked. So white liberals, they tend to have an issue with masculine men, especially masculine black males. There's an assault on that. So protect your sons, because basically what they've done is they've defined any type of sexual interest by a heterosexual male, particularly on the job, as a type of almost like sexual assault or harassment. And that's that's a trap in the sense that studies show that a large percentage of people, the majority of all people, end up dating somebody they work with, especially if they go to work a lot. So what they've done is created a scenario where if your black son goes to work and he finds a woman on the job that's attractive and she's attracted to him and she says, hey, let's get together, and your son gets together with that woman, they're not going to fire her. They're going to fire your son, especially if your son happens to have a managerial position or he is ranked higher in the company than her. They're going to talk about your son like he's a rapist. So warn your sons. That's why black men need to have their own businesses, because some of these rules don't make any sense. They just don't. I get it. I get sexism. I get power dynamics. I understand all of that. I was in academia, white academia, for many years. So while I can certainly appreciate some of their ideas, I can also dismantle them and break them down like a hillbilly breaking down a Ford motor truck, like a hillbilly breaking down a Ford Explorer. Like I know I know the mechanics of exactly what you're saying and exactly where your flaws are in your design. Let's keep going. So this documentary called "We Need to Talk About Cosby." Kamal Bell is the host. He's a black man. Almost the entire cast is black. Let's talk about Mark Lamont Hill for a second. I don't have a lot of time. My beautiful wife is waiting for me, so I'm going to make this short. Mark Lamont Hill has had a very, very biased vendetta against Cosby for many years. Back when Mark and I were friends, back in maybe 2010, I remember Mark being extremely frustrated with Cosby, extremely upset, because one time I remember in particular, this among many times, Cosby's on the radio. They said, hey, Mark Lamont Hill would like to address you about your pound cake speech or something like that. Because remember, Dyson wrote that book. Michael Eric Dyson wrote that book about Bill Cosby after Bill Cosby gave that terrible pound cake speech back in 2004. Anybody remember that? Give me a yes or no if you remember that. Some of y'all might be too young to remember, but you should Google it. It's good. Cosby gave a bad speech. The kid sounded elitist. I got what he was trying to say. He was an old guy that was frustrated with the decline of our culture. He was frustrated with black people embracing ignorance. He was frustrated with black men not wanting to be men anymore. He was frustrated with black people not wanting to be educated anymore. He was frustrated with black people not trying to better ourselves. So he got frustrated. He said something that was said in exactly the wrong way, and a lot of people jumped on him for it, which they should have. But I personally think he had a point, while at the same time, he could have said it better. No question about it. So Michael Eric Dyson goes and writes a book about Cosby. I forgot what it's called. Was Bill Cosby right, or has the black middle class lost its mind, or something like that? I don't remember what the title of the book was. All I know is that that while Dyson certainly had a point in writing his book, Cosby had a point in pointing to the decline of our culture. If you haven't seen the decline, pay attention to what is happening to your neighborhoods in these Democratic-run districts where black people are dying every single day. If you don't think there's a decline in the culture, pay attention to the fact that black wealth is going down. It's not going up, despite the fact that you got all kinds of Negroes with college degrees everywhere. If you don't believe your community is in decline, look at the breakdown of the black family and how many families have fallen apart in the last 20, 30, 40 years. Right? they want Joe Biden to become the man of the house and send your woman a welfare check, as opposed to you being a man, being in the house and being with those kids. So Cosby had a point. He had a point, but he said it wrong. Right. So years later, Mark Lamont Hill is trying to get onto the radio. He's trying to get a come up. He's trying to confront Cosby directly. Cosby won't speak to him. He would not address him. And this made Mark upset. Mark was very angry. I remember him expressing that anger with me. And so and part of the anger toward Hill, in my view, is driven by the fact that if I'm not, from what I was told, there was a thing where Cosby didn't like the fact that Mark was at Temple. That I think he was giving him a hard time at Temple. And so this was a personal thing, right? So my point in all this is to say that some of this stuff, sometimes when you see documentaries like this, there's a lot of going on. There's a lot of stuff happening in the background that the public isn't aware of. There are a lot of personal beefs being settled. There's a lot of hidden agendas that are out there. There's a lot of nonsense kind of boiling that they're not necessarily going to reveal or expose when they put the documentary out. So this documentary is incredibly biased. If you notice, most of the people that are in the documentary are all connected on some level. They work together in other capacities. So whoever the executive producers are, these are probably people that just kind of roll together. The people that kind of roll together in that space, they are typically the white liberals in blackface who pretty much, they'll tell you to vote for the Democrats every time, no matter how much they ignore you, no matter how much they refuse to talk about reparations, no matter how much they disrespect the black community. It always comes back to, well, we need to get Trump out of office, or we need to support Uncle Joe, or Uncle Joe he feels bad about mass incarceration. He's changed. People can change. Or they're the first ones to want to talk about gayness and immigrants instead of talking about black people. That's kind of what they do. That's kind of how they operate. Now, with that said, do me a favor. Please hit the thumbs up button. Thumbs up, share, subscribe if you haven't done it yet. Also, if you'd like to support the channel, please go to intelligentblackpeople.com. We need to talk about Cosby. First of all, let's go to the basic facts. If there was evidence that would get this man locked up, he would be in prison right now. There's something called the justice system, where if you think about this. Now, I'm not sitting here trying to say he didn't do it. I'm not saying that. I don't have to prove that. What I'm saying to you is that I don't know about y'all, but I have often wondered how in the world is it that all this stuff was happening like crazy in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, and yet dozens of mostly white women can come forward and say, I was too scared to tell the police that a black man assaulted me. I mean, give me a yes or no. Does that make sense to you? I mean, do you think that a white woman in the 1960s will be afraid, like that all of them, every single one of them, will be afraid to go tell the cops that a black man did something bad to them? I mean, remember, Tulsa, all of Black Wall Street got burned down because a white woman told white men what happened to her. Y'all do know that, right? You do know Black Wall Street got burned to the ground. Hundreds of people got killed because one white woman said a black man touched me. He not had sex with me, not did nothing like heavy. Just it's like he touched me. So seriously, that part is just a little bit weird. That just doesn't add up. It doesn't pass the smell test. It does not compute. Doesn't mean Cosby's innocent. It just means it's a little weird. Right now we get it. Okay, Cosby's a big deal. He was a celebrity. He had a lot of power. So maybe that was the trump card. Okay. I kind of get that. Maybe that's why hundreds and hundreds and hundreds or dozens or whatever of all these empowered white women were all afraid to even go and mention one thing to the cops, file any police reports, anything. That's just odd. That's very odd. So then you move forward into the idea that, I mean, the reality that maybe in these situations you can't, as much as you want to make it clear and cut and dry, like Kamal Bell, the title of this documentary is "We Need to Talk About Cosby." We want to have a discussion about Cosby. We need to have a open, wide open forum in a discussion about Cosby. Well, let me just tell you a little secret, Kamal Bell. Kamal is, he's married to a white woman. He's the kind of black guy that makes white people smile. That's why they like him. That's why he'll always be on TV. And people like me will never be on TV because they don't want to confront angry black people. They want to confront smiling Negroes. It goes all the way back to slavery. This is a trend. Um, Here's the deal, Kamal. A discussion means that you hear all sides of the issue. A discussion is not where you grab a bunch of Negroes looking for a job and you put them all on TV and you let them all pretty much say the same thing. If everybody in the discussion is saying the same thing, that's not a discussion. Did you hear me? Give me a yes in the chat if you understand what I'm saying. If everybody in the discussion comes to the same conclusion and you act like the other side doesn't exist, well, bro, you're not having a discussion. I mean, at least in this forum, because we believe in freedom of speech or whatever, I'm willing to acknowledge the other point of view. I can just say, look, I hear you, and you are making a point here, and it's a valid point, but I disagree. Or I think my point actually weighs a little bit more than yours, but I'm hearing what you're saying, right? That's what a good discussion is. I learned this from my wife. My wife's a therapist. She taught me about things like empathy and how to really hear the other side, right? Y'all ain't being empathetic. Y'all Negroes on this show, y'all acting like white folks, basically. You're basically sitting up there, and the reason you feel is so critical to have we need to talk about Cosby. We need to talk about Cosby. Look, think about it. They ain't sitting around saying, well, we need to talk about reparations for $14 trillion that was stolen from the black community. They're not saying, oh, we need to talk about urban violence where black people in Democratic run districts are being murdered by the boatload. Or they talk about, we need to talk about black wealth being stolen out of the community up until this day. They don't need to talk about any of that, but they got to talk about Cosby. We have to talk about Cosby. Talk about Cosby is so important. You ain't got to talk about Bill Clinton and all his rape allegations. You don't need to talk about Joe Biden and the fact that he too, remember Joe Biden, Uncle Joe, oh, crispy Uncle Joe. Yeah, Uncle Joe who said, if you don't vote for me and you ain't black. Uncle Joe was accused of rape. Did y'all know that? Give me a yes or no if y'all knew that Uncle Joe was accused of an inappropriate behavior with a woman. Y'all know? I mean, highly inappropriate behavior. Yes or no? Give me a yes or no if you knew that. So I just find it real interesting. Pay attention now. You got a white-owned media outlet that says, let's gather up a whole bunch of Negroes and make and give the appearance that the whole black community just needs to talk about Cosby. Man, if that ain't a goddamn puppet show, I don't know what is. Y'all don't even own the damn channel. So stop acting like this is your conversation that you're trying to push. You don't own nothing. Y'all don't own nothing. You are literally, when you have the conversation, I don't even want to talk to the puppet. I'm not even addressing the people on there who were only allowed on that platform because they all had the same opinion. I don't talk to the puppet. I talk to the puppet master. We talk boss to boss. You ain't no boss. You are a pawn. That is what you are. Somebody powerful has an agenda, and the powerful people, maybe it's some of those executives who work with Cosby who've been pissed off at him for years. Maybe it's the billionaires like George Soros who artificially create movements like the Black Lives Matter movement to get black people all riled up and moved in a certain direction. Herding y'all like sheep. Herding y'all like sheep. Like they cowboys on horses and they herding you a bunch of cattle that run in different directions and they just herding you. Like they just go get them, boy. Lasso that Negro, lasso. Like they're herding you like farm animals. And they got you out here looking stupid because and then what's fascinating and really tragically sad is that some of the people in the documentary are scholars. Some of them are scholars like me. Some of them have PhDs like I do. And I'm absolutely stunned that you claim to be a scholar and you have absolutely zero respect for intellectual freedom. You have zero respect for freedom of speech. You have zero respect for freedom of expression. You can't even hear. Like you can't, you every person out here, millions of people out here are looking at this and they're saying, wait a minute, maybe there's more to this. Maybe we gotta ask that white woman why it was that since you claim this man raped you, which is terrible, right? If it happened, then that's terrible. We're not gonna condone any of that. But why was it that there's a track record that for 20 years you went to see him every time he was in town? Why is it that there is a track record that for 20 years you were called, you were blowing up this man's phone? Like you're blowing it up like a Keith Sweat song. Baby, baby, please, baby, baby. Like, why is it for 20 years you were bragging to all your friends? Yeah, I'm cool with Bill Cosby. He can get us tickets to the concert. Seriously, I mean, does anybody ever ask themselves this question? Am I the only one? Does anybody else ever sit back and say, you know, I think that if we're going to have this much scrutiny on Cosby, maybe we should have an equal amount of scrutiny on those who are accusing him, because Lord knows white women have lied before. Now, I know some people, white liberals, teach these Negroes terms like believe all women, which is about the most retarded thing any human being has ever said to another human being in their life. Because if you believe all women, that means you believe the woman who falsely accused Emmett Till, right? They believe all women means that she was telling the truth. Believe all women means that you believe the woman who accused the black man of touching her that got Black Wall Street burned down. Like, right? Believe all women is a pretty loaded term, but they literally were running around with terms like believe all women. I don't believe all women. I'm sorry, because I believe women are intelligent and I believe women are capable of lying. So how about we move past this artificial white supremacist barrier that protects every person lining up to get a check, every crackhead trying to get another $1 million out of Cosby, whatever, everybody who's signing on to Gloria Allred's, little deals to get to where everybody can get paid, where they're lining up, sucking black wealth out of this black family, sucking Camille's money, taking away money from the kids, taking hundreds of millions of dollars, right? Maybe we should have some sort of criteria to determine whether your story really holds up to the test of scrutiny. Now, let me tell you why this is important. I'm going to give y'all some facts right here for a minute, right quick. I want you to go look up in the New York Times. There was an article about Lisa Bloom, the daughter of Gloria Allred. Gloria Allred is kind of like the white female Al Sharpton. She kind of runs around and shakes people down for money and says you were accused of something. And before the accusations are even vetted out, she says, just write $100 million check and it'll go away. That's what she does. She's a shakedown artist. They need to give her a gun and a ski mask because she'd be rolling through the hood, like just taking everybody's money, right? Okay. So Lisa Bloom is Gloria Allred's daughter. Pay attention. Now follow me. In the New York Times, they wrote a whole article about how Lisa Bloom wrote in a memo to Harvey Weinstein offering to defend him. She offered to defend him. And so you might ask, well, why in the world would a champion for women's rights, why in the world would the woman who's championing all of Cosby's accusers want to go and defend a raggedy scumbag like Harvey Weinstein? And believe me, this man looks like he looks raggedy. He looks nasty, right? When Oprah was giving him kisses on the cheek, I was like, why would you kiss an old nasty ass man like that? Oh, he must be rich or something, right? But shout out to Damon Dash, because Damon Dash is actually one of the few people who actually confronted Weinstein before it was popular to do so. I should just mention that. He actually confronted Weinstein on his behavior before Weinstein was going down. Back when everybody, Vlad from Vlad TV, personally was talking to me on the phone, and he said, the reason I don't work with Damon Dash is because Damon Dash confronted and attacked Harvey Weinstein, and you just don't do that in Hollywood. This was before any of the allegations of Weinstein came out. This was back when Oprah was giving him kisses on the cheek, all that stuff. So there were some people that were canaries in the mine that saw what was going on with Weinstein. But let's get back to it. Lisa Bloom, daughter of Gloria Allred. Gloria Allred is the shakedown artist who was one of the first people to come after Cosby and tell him to put, I think she said she wanted him to write a check for $100 million for a fund for all the poor little victims who were harmed by his terrible acts. Okay, fine. I hear that. But pay attention now. So she writes this memo. Lisa Bloom, Gloria Allred's daughter, writes a memo to Harvey Weinstein and offers to defend him. And you know what she said in the memo? I want you to go look it up. It's in the New York Times. Google it. Don't believe me. Go Google it. She basically said that when you start asking these women hard questions, they're going to crinkle up like a piece of paper. They're going to buckle and fold. Their stories will not stand up to scrutiny because don't nobody violate the rule of questioning a white woman when she's in distress. Can I get an amen on that? Do you understand what I'm saying? If you saw the movie Rosewood, if you remember when that lady was like, "Oh my God, the nigga hurt me," right? Nobody asked her. They're, "Oh Lord, we got to protect Miss Sally." Ain't nobody more protected in this society than the white female. Stop it. Tell me if I'm lying. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Look at the incarceration statistics. The most incarcerated person in America is the black male. Nobody gets sent to jail more than the black male. Nobody gets longer prison sentences than the black male. The least incarcerated person in America is the white female. The white female, when the damsel is in distress, don't nobody take the time to question the damsel. Well, you know what? When you got an entire legacy on the line, when you have hundreds of millions of dollars on the line, when you have a lifetime, a body of work that goes back 50, 60 years on the line, when you got a whole community's love and appreciation for someone on the line, I'm going to put Miss Becky on the stand too. Miss Becky, Miss Karen, all y'all getting on the stand, because before we write that check to you for $1 million so you can go feed your crack habit, because some of them were crackheads. I'm sorry, I don't know if anybody has any drug addicts in your family, but you can't trust them. Tell me if you know what I'm talking about. If you got drug addicts in your family, you know a drug addict's gonna tell a lie. Some of those women are addicted to drugs. How in the hell are you gonna tell me that that a drug addict can just show up and say that Cosby did something to me in 1972 and I can't prove it, but I'm a white woman, so and I said it, so that's got to be enough. Like, what the hell, man? If I wish I had a credit score like a white woman's voice. Like Becky Tears had the highest, they got an 850 credit score. Becky Tears have an 850 credit score because they get perfect credibility the minute they start dropping tears. And the reason you have to confront this is because many, many, many black men have died because of a white woman's tears. Many black men have lost everything because a white woman did something terrible and then cried about it. So if you can't talk about that in an honest way, then you ain't really talking about nothing. You can sit there and you know what? I give them permission. I give all these Negroes in this documentary complete permission. Seriously, Showtime, all white platform, props up a bunch of black people to go after a black man. I've seen this happen 1,000 times. They did the same thing to Cornel West when he was challenging the Obama administration. Slate magazine gave Dyson 10,000 words of space to just talk about how irrelevant and how horrible Cornel West is. I've seen black people propped up to take down Farrakhan. This Negro's a problem. He's talking about black independence and freedom, so we need to find one of our pets, and we need to put him up so he can take him. Right? I've seen it play out 1,000 times. When I spoke about the racism behind the NCAA not compensating black families for stealing billions of dollars from the black community every year through the use of our athletes, CBS Sports did a special where they literally put me in there. They had me say what I had to say about why athletes should be paid, which to me is the most common sense that there is. Remember, my PhD is in finance, but I didn't need to use my whole PhD to explain why a human being should be compensated for their labor, right? It didn't take even one of my master's degrees for me to help them understand that, look, when you go to work, you expect to get paid now, don't you? Now, do you think it's fair that the coach didn't even he's not even on the court, but he's flying in on a private jet. He got a mansion and a yacht. His kids are in private school, but the star player who we really need in the game, right? Because I don't watch the game to see the coach. I watch the game to see the players. His mama's taking the Greyhound bus and living in the projects. You think that's fair? Like, it was easy, right? But let me tell you what they did. CBS did exactly what Showtime is doing right now. And I want to make y'all hip to the rope-a-dope. This is what they do. So what they did was they said, we want to neutralize the racial angle. So every time I would make a point and I'd say, of course athletes should be paid. Every American should be paid for their labor. They would then put two black men behind me, exactly two. It would be typically Clark Kellogg and Lynn Elmore. And they would have them say the exact opposite of what I said. And then they would bring the white guys in after. The white guys were like the cavalry that would come in. Then they throw in Mike Krzyzewski and Billy Packer and all these sports guys, right? And pay attention now. All the people that were in this documentary were making money off the athletes. Like every single person in the documentary, except for me, was making money off college athletes. So you sit there talking about athletes shouldn't be paid, but you getting paid off of the labor of somebody else. Are you kidding me right now? This is how the game works. This is how they prop up black people to neutralize the racial issue. Malcolm X said that in a speech. He said, back on the plantation, when a Negro like me would speak up, they didn't kill him. What they would do is they would send some old house Negro behind him. And the house Negro would invalidate everything that, that the loudmouth slave had to say, that the field slave had to say. So ultimately, what you're seeing right now is exactly this. You're seeing a scenario where there are valid, intelligent people, millions of them, who are on the other side of that fence, who are saying, yeah, we're not here to justify Cosby's whole life. We don't know if he's innocent or not, but we do think that it's peculiar that A, you're not questioning any of these women that are lining up to get a check or why they were chasing Cosby down 20 years after he allegedly did something bad to them. And then B, you're not considering the fact that he went to court and he was proven not guilty. You're not considering any of that, right? Now, the man's paid a lot of money. He's very, very old. He's probably not going to be around that long. Why not go ahead and just move forward? Why move on? Because I can guarantee you this much. I don't know. I want y'all to tell me, what do you think? Give me a yes or no in the chat. I'm going to ask this question, then I'm going to have to go because my wife is waiting for me, and she's so gorgeous, I can't say no to her. I'm going to ask y'all this question. If Bill Cosby was a white man of equal prominence, equal fame, equal wealth, equal stature, do you think that Showtime would be airing a documentary like this? Especially, in fact, let me just say it, let me qualify it further. If he were a white male Democrat, if he were a Democrat, if he were Bill Clinton, Joe Biden, or some of these other white males who've done terrible things, do you think that they would be doing this documentary saying, oh my God, we must talk about Bill Clinton? And do you think that they will be using these Negroes to make their point? I mean, do you think that these black people that they're putting on Showtime are on there for any reason other than the fact that they are being hired as slave overseers to do a hit on another slave? That's you're hired assassins. That's what you are. And you should be ashamed of yourselves for even participating in this project, not because you have your opinion. You have a right to have your point of view. You have a right to think Cosby's a son of a bitch. I'm not going to fight you on that. You have a right to say, you know what, I wouldn't let him babysit my kids. You have a right to say all of that. But when you allow yourself to be used as a weapon of white supremacy, well, then free black men like me have to come and check you a little bit. So while you sitting there saying, look, mama, I made it. Look, mama, Showtime wrote me a big check, mama. I got me a deal with Netflix, mama. Look at me, mama. I'm doing good, mama. You got to ask yourself, you got to remember, man, you're doing something that Negroes been doing for 300 years, man. Ain't nothing new about anything that you're seeing in this documentary. And again, I want to make it clear that I'm not making these points because I believe Cosby never could have done anything wrong. In fact, it's weird because I've had many occasions where I've critiqued Cosby on a heavy level, right? But at the same time, remember, this is the same guy who, who also did a lot of really good things for the community that none of those Negroes on their documentary have ever done or never could do, and probably wouldn't do. Cosby, as much as you want to be mad at him, and I get it, right? Especially, man, I mean, you should have been next to your wife. She's beautiful. I don't understand that. I just, it makes me sad, right? And it's a warning to black men, like, don't get caught up in all this nonsense and get to running, chasing Becky down and doing all this other stuff, man, because that stuff will get you in trouble. You'll be looking like Cosby right now. So there's a lot of lessons to be learned from this, right? So there's a lot of things you can say to legitimately and validly critique Cosby and the way he chose to live his life. But if you're going to critique the things he did wrong, let's take some time to also make sure we acknowledge the things he did right. Let's acknowledge the fact that Fat Albert educated millions of little kids like me. I grew up on, I don't know if some of y'all, you might have to be old school. If you ain't old school enough to remember Fat Albert, go watch some episodes. I think you would like it. You would appreciate what he was trying to do. If you're fair about it, you're going to acknowledge the fact that Cosby did things, for HBCUs that nobody was doing at the time. What nobody giving $20 million to Spelman in the 1980s. They couldn't get something. They had a hard time getting black celebrities to write a check for $50,000. right? What he did with Different World and HBCU enrollment. I mean, is that not worth anything? Is that not worth anything? So yes, he might have been flawed, but at the very least, he used his power in a way that was so different from what you see right now. Now you see celebrities out here literally marketing drug addiction to young people. You're gonna have drug addicts that literally have emerged because they were listening to some rapper tell them how great it was to pop Molly's and Percocets. Seriously, you have artists that think it's okay for black people to kill each other. You have artists that will tell you to go and vote for the same politicians even though people in your community are dying. So I know that we want to get caught up in the fact that Cosby somehow is unredeemable and that there's nothing good about this man, or that he did a couple of good things, but what he did was so bad that it just makes him a terrible person. We need to destroy his legacy and ruin everything he ever did. No, how about you just conclude either that Cosby might have been a good man who did some bad things, or a bad man who did some good things. But either way, you can't act like somehow his alleged violation of white women trumps everything that he did in his life. Doesn't mean, again, none of this was proven, by the way. Let's make that clear. Let's not forget that none of this was ever proven, by the way. Proof matters, unless you want to convince us that the justice system is irrelevant. If you want to make that argument, okay, we can have a conversation. But I think that, that a lot of these same people, are the same ones who would tell you to believe in the system. You got to believe in the system. You got to believe in Uncle Joe. You got to believe in the Democrats. Well, I'm gonna tell you the truth. I don't believe in the system either. So that maybe that's one thing we have in common right now. But you can't just act like the system's invalid when you're trying to go after a black man. Like somehow it doesn't matter now. But when white men walk away and are proven not guilty, they leave them alone. They don't try to go lynch them. They don't chase them around for the rest of their life. Again, this man has paid a ton of money, probably a couple $100 million. He is old. He's not going to be alive in the next few years. He's probably going to be gone. I think it's okay to let those sleeping dogs lie. That's my 2 cents. So anyway, guys, I'm gonna get out of here. Thanks for listening. I hope the point was taken in the spirit it was intended. This, again, if you look at the parallels of slavery, if you study things like what Dr. Claude Anderson writes about in Black Labor, White Wealth, you'll see that this playbook has been run by the white man 10,000 times. And unfortunately, some black people still fall for it. And I think it's because they were educated mostly by white people. And, I went to Brown University, so that means I'm smart now. No, it could mean you're brainwashed. It could mean you've been indoctrinated. Remember, a lot of people don't understand. I'm saying this as a college professor. I taught on campuses for many years, University of Kentucky, Indiana University. So I'm not just a guy who's talking out of the side of his ass. No. Education is also an indoctrination process. They're not just giving you skills. They're also giving you culture. They're not just teaching you facts. They're also giving you your perspective. They're telling you what your opinions are going to be. That's why you see so many black kids that graduate from a lot of liberal arts universities or white liberal schools, and they come out and they sound like white liberals in blackface, which would include the vast majority of the Negroes that were on this documentary. Again, you can't call it a conversation if it's one-sided. That's the bottom line. So anyway, guys, hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. If you want to support the platform, feel free to go to intelligentblackpeople.com. I give you guys exclusive content and also stock selections and things like that every week. So feel free to support the channel. We'd love to have your support because, I hope you understand we got to build black media. We must build black media to confront the racism of white media. Look, I don't have the resources of Showtime. I can't confront, Showtime, big networks like that. So I really need your help. You are our network, right? So if you could take the time to share this video with people who are going to at least hear what we have to say, because I might be wrong sometimes, but I'm not stupid. Yeah, I might be wrong, but I think about everything I say. I think that our community deserves to have a broader conversation about important issues, and it needs to be our conversation, not one led by white-owned media outlets. That's nonsense. That's absolute racism. That's nothing. That's colonial imperialism at its finest. Okay. So anyway, guys, I'm gonna head on out of here. And also my website, in case you want to go take a look, is boycewatkins.com. Every Wednesday night we do read Powernomics and Black Labor, White Wealth, Dr. Claude Anderson books, and it's free to the community. So if you'd like to join us for the book club every week, just go to boycewatkins.com. It's right there. All right, guys. So please have a wonderful day. Thank you for listening. God bless you. I'll see you soon. Take care. Peace.